What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL video on the channel. And in today's one, we are going to be looking at my transfer plans for game week 8. If we could get 100 likes on today's video, that would be absolutely sensational. But first things first, I want to start off by having a look at what my current game week 8 team does look like. And as you guys know, right, the redemption is in full flow. Things are looking really good at the moment. It's now back-to-back green arrows, and currently we do sit at a rank of 1.6 million. So since the game week 6 wildcard, right, we have made massive improvements, and I'm hoping to continue that good form that we're in, right? But with that being said, as you guys can see, this is what the current game week 8 team looks like, and we're going to talk about players I'm considering in a second. But as you guys can see, we got Raya in goal, then a back three of Gabriel, Van de Ven and Senesi. So we got double Arsenal defense against Fulham away from home. I don't mind it as a fixture, and to be honest with you, Arsenal are the best defense in the league, so I think the chances of Arsenal getting a clean sheet in any game really is always going to be pretty high, right? So I'm definitely going to start, Raya and Gabriel against Fulham. I think in recent years, they definitely have sort of struggled against Fulham away from home, but I think this year will be different. I think Fulham, going forward, they've got a couple injuries as well. Raul Jimenez injured, Muniz injured, so they could potentially miss this game. I'm not sure. We'll definitely get some more information, closer to the deadline. But yeah, I just think the Fulham attack hasn't necessarily been amazing so far. So yeah, definitely going to start my double Arsenal defense there. We got Van de Ven and Senesi. Now Senesi's definitely gonna play. He's a defensive contributions monster, so I'm gonna start him against Crystal Palace away. It definitely is a tricky game, but I've got a decision to make, in my opinion, right? And that's Van de Ven. Do I bench Van de Ven and start Rodon, or do I just start Van de Ven against Villa at home? I'm not really too sure. That is definitely one decision that, it's pretty 50-50. I don't really like what I've seen that much from the Spurs defense, and if Spurs aren't going to get a clean sheet, then Van de Ven pretty much is just useless for me, because he's not really good for defensive contributions. So I've definitely got a decision to make there. Rodon away at Burnley or Van de Ven at home against Aston Villa. It's a very tricky one, but currently this is the back three that I'm going for. Now in midfield, we do have Njai, Salah, Kudus, Reinders, Semenyo, and up front we've got Richarlison and the robot, the machine, Erling Haaland. So yeah, the midfield, Semenyo staying, Palace away, that's fine. Reinders staying, but we'll talk about Reinders in a second because he has been pretty poor, to be fair. But I think, yeah, Reinders against Everton at home, I'm going to keep him for this week. Kudus definitely at risk of being, transferred out. Salah staying against United at home, very happy with that fixture. Njai, Man City away, another player at risk of being dropped for me. And of course, Richarlison, yeah, definitely getting sold, right? More than you can believe. We are definitely selling Richarlison this week, and that's sort of just going to lead me on to sort of my transfers, my transfer plans and what I've got in mind for game week 8. So listen, I want to make one thing clear, right? I've got three free transfers with this team, so really happy with that. We're very flexible in what we can do. Now the first thing I want to talk about is players that I'm looking to buy, players that are on my radar, players that I'm targeting, right? And as you guys can see on the graphic on screen, right, Joao Pedro, Gerard Bowen, Ismail Assar, Paqueta, Minte and Chris Richards are all players that I am looking to bring in potentially this week or sometime in the near future. And we're also going to do some sort of long-term planning with this team and look at the structure we are trying to get to. But these players definitely are on my radar, and Joao Pedro for me is the, sort of the number one player I'm looking at the moment, right? I love Joao Pedro as a pick at the moment. With looking ahead and looking at the fixtures that Chelsea have, I think he's got serious potential. Now for me, it is definitely sort of Joao Pedro or Gerard Bowen, right? It's either or. I cannot go for both Joao Pedro and Bowen, right? I can't do it. I've not got the funds. I've got Haaland and Salah in the same draft. The money is tight, right? So I have to pick, right, directly between Joao Pedro and Gerard Bowen. I like both as options, but right now my gut is telling me Joao Pedro, right? First things first, what I want to say to you guys is with Joao Pedro, the fixtures are just simply fantastic, right? And I think, yes, I know he's been out of form, massively out of form in terms of FPL. He's blanked in the last 3 games, but to be fair, when you add a little bit of context to that, in 2 of those games where he blanked, right, Chelsea went down to 10 men. So it's very rare that you're going to see Joao Pedro cook and get goals and assists whilst playing in a team with 10 men. And that's why for me, I'm not really letting the lack of returns from Joao Pedro sort of make me think that he's a bad pick, because I understand the context behind it. And I think when you look at the fixtures, right, long term for Joao Pedro, I do feel like this is the period now where we are going to see Chelsea cook. We are going to see Joao Pedro get those FPL returns. I mean, Forest away is a great entry point. Forest are stinking up the place week in, week out. They look just terrible, right? Absolutely terrible under Ange Postecoglou. So I'm more than happy to bring in Joao Pedro this week against Nottingham Forest away. Then after that is Sunderland at home, and then Spurs away, then Wolves at home, Burnley away, Arsenal at home is tough, but then after that it's Leeds away, right? And then Bournemouth and Everton. So I just think the long-term fixtures are just simply too good to ignore. And with Joao Pedro, we know he's going to start. We know he's going to get good minutes. And he's playing in a Chelsea team that can create chances with 11 men, right? As long as they've got 11 men on the pitch, I would back Chelsea to score quite a few goals across this sort of run, across this period, right? So yeah, for me, I like Joao Pedro a lot. And again, as I said, I think I've got a gut feeling about Joao Pedro. I do think he'll do well. And also, another reason that's sort of making me lean towards picking Joao Pedro over someone like Jarrod Bowen is the fact that, you know, his ownership is so high. At the time of recording, he's got 61.9% ownership. I don't want to bet against that ownership with these good fixtures, right? I told you, it's a different me. I don't want to make silly mistakes. Yes, I know Bowen could be a great player. I mean, Bowen's a great footballer, right? No doubt about it. And, you know, in this Nuno system, I still believe Bowen will do really well. The reason why I don't really want to pick Jarrod Bowen is because his ownership, you know, is very low compared to Joao Pedro. Now, Joao Pedro's also got fantastic fixtures, and if Jarrod Bowen blanks, right, and Joao Pedro explodes with the good fixtures that he has, I am finished, and I don't want to bet against that, right? For me, like, if Joao Pedro had bad fixtures, then of course I'll be picking Jarrod Bowen, right? I'm not just picking Joao Pedro because he's higher owned. It's also the fact that the fixtures are there for Joao Pedro, right? And for me, I don't think it's a smart thing to do to ignore someone like Joao Pedro, who's capable of getting multiple returns, multiple goals and assists, who's got such high ownership with good fixtures. It doesn't make sense to ignore someone like that to get Jarrod Bowen, right? For me, I feel like that's something I would have done last season. I would have tried to play it differential. I would have tried to pick a player like Jarrod Bowen, and ultimately that would have caused me to fail, right? So I think I want to be a little bit smarter, a little bit more cautious, a little bit more safer, and there's nothing wrong with doing that in my opinion. I don't want to force being different just for the sake of it. And as I said, I do have a good gut feeling about Joao Pedro. So yeah, Joao Pedro is what I'm leaning towards right now ahead of Jarrod Bowen. So as I said, right, Sarr, Paqueta, also some possible options. Now, what I want to show you guys is sort of the transfers that I will do to sort of be able to afford Joao Pedro, because I can't go to, you know, Joao Pedro in one move, right? I can't just go from Richarlison to Joao Pedro. I've got 0.5 million in the bank, but yeah, that's simply not enough, right? It's not enough to get Joao Pedro in one move. So this is what I'm thinking at the moment. Now, originally, I was going to take out Kudus, but I've been thinking, I think I'm going to take out Iliman and Ndiaye instead. Now, it would cost me 2 free transfers to get Joao Pedro, and the moves I'm thinking of doing is Ndiaye out to someone like Ismaila Sarr. Not Ismaila Sarr. Ndiaye out to someone cheap like Lucas Paqueta, right? And then that would give me enough money to get in Joao Pedro. So that's what I'm thinking now. Look, it is between Paqueta or Minte, but at the moment, I feel like I want to go for Paqueta and attack the short-term fixtures, right, that West Ham do have. Now, with that being said, right, the reason why I'm actually thinking of taking out Ndiaye instead of Kudus is because I was thinking, right, Ismaila Sarr, I like him a lot as an option. And originally, when I built this team and I built this setup, I wasn't really planning to get Ismaila Sarr, but the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, yes, I actually want Ismaila Sarr. I think the underlying data is fantastic. The eye test for Ismaila Sarr is also just really good. I just think Ismaila Sarr right now, he is just a sensational pick. I mean, look at the expected goal involvement, right, per 90. 0.67. It's absolutely sensational. And the eye test does back that up as well. He got 1 assist against Everton. He could have had a couple of more assists. He could have had a goal. I just think that data is good for Ismaila Sarr, and sort of the eye test is really good for Ismaila Sarr. And also the fixtures are fantastic, and Ismaila Sarr is someone that I would want in game week 10 onwards, right? So he's not necessarily someone I want for game week 8, because I think short term, Bournemouth, Arsenal, they're quite tough games, right? They are quite tough games. So I think ignore Ismaila Sarr for game week 8 and 9, but then bring him in for game week 10. So what that means, guys, is that eventually Kudus and Iliman and Ndiaye will get sold, right? Because I need a cheap midfielder to free up funds to get Joao Pedro, but then I also want to sell one of them, right, to get Ismaila Sarr. So the reason why, now this is sort of the reason why I'm selling Ndiaye first before I sell Kudus, right? Because what I'm going to do is sell Ndiaye first, because if from game week 10, I decide that I want Ismaila Sarr, that then means that essentially between Ndiaye and Kudus, I only need to keep one of you for 2 more games up until game week 10. And when I look at the fixtures, Ndai's got Man City away and Spurs at home, and then in game week 10 I would sell him. So why on earth, if I'm planning to get Ismaila Sarr, why would I sell Kudus instead of selling Ndai when Kudus has Aston Villa at home and Everton away? I think those fixtures for Spurs are better, right, in the short term for the next 2 games as a placeholder for Ismaila Sarr, right? I don't really see Iliman Ndai, you know, his potential for points in these games, City away and Spurs at home, are not the greatest. And I think also with sort of the way that I've been watching Everton, and yes, I know he did sort of score the penalty, that's great, but outside of the penalty he didn't really offer much. Of course he could have got an assist right at the end, right? Very unlucky to not get the assist, to be fair, but ultimately if Iliman Ndai walked away from that game without any FPL returns, I don't think I could have complained too much, because the chances just weren't there for Ndai. And also what I noticed is when sort of Everton were dropping back and sitting deep on transition, his starting point was very, very deep, so he wouldn't really be involved in the transitional type of play. And these games here in game week 8 and game week 9, I feel like are more transitional type of games for the Everton attackers. And because of that, I just feel like the potential for points, right, because of Ndai's lack of threat in transition, is not that high. And therefore, I just think it makes sense, right, to sell Iliman Ndai first before I sell Kudus, right? And yeah, that's pretty much the reason, my reasoning. Of course, Ndai could get, you know, defensive contributions, he could get a penalty, but ultimately from open play, I just think in the last 2 games that I've watched, right, West Ham, Crystal Palace, the threat from Ndai hasn't been great. So I'm open to selling him before Kudus, and the player that I want to get is of course Paqueta. Now it is between Paqueta and Minte, but again, this spot here is more of a short-term pick, and over the short term, Paqueta's got better fixtures. As you guys can see, Paqueta has got Brentford at home and Leeds away, and when you compare it to Minte, who's got Newcastle next, which is a very, very tough defence, and then after United away, that's not too bad, to be fair, but I just feel like Paqueta's fixtures are better. Also, Paqueta is good for defensive contributions and on penalties as well, right? So right now, the 2 moves that I want to do, right, just to summarize, I know I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm just trying to really paint a picture. I'm trying to make you understand my thought processes. So as it stands, right, the 2 transfers I want to make this week is Ndai out to Paqueta, and then Richarlison up to Joao Pedro, right, in 2 free transfers. That's what I want to do, and I'm going to keep Kudus just for 2 more game weeks. With that being said, now I want to move on to the long-term planning, right, and what we're working towards. So yeah, let's head over to planfpl.com and let's have a look at the future transfer plans I've got with this team. All right, guys, so we are on planfpl.com and we're going to have a look at my future plans with the team. So as you guys can see, of course, this is currently how you know, the game week 8 team it does look. I kind of do like it, to be fair. I think it looks pretty solid for game week 8, but let's just assume that we make those 2 transfers that we spoke about, right? So we take Iliman Ndai out, we bring in Lucas Paqueta, right, for the short term, and then we also obviously take out Richarlison and bring in Joao Pedro. So that's how the team would look if I was to make those 2 free transfers, and I like it, right? I do like it. I think on paper it looks pretty good. Like I said, I could have Minte here, but I think Paqueta for me makes the most sense. To be fair, there's also a couple of other cheap players, right? Since we're here, I just sort of, again, kind of rambling here, but there is also a few other cheap players that I've considered, like Okafor from Leeds. I have considered him because I only need someone for the short term, and when I mean the short term, I need someone for the next 2 game weeks, right, in this cheap spot, because then I want to move on to someone else. So because I've got transfers to do that, someone like Okafor is quite appealing. Burnley away, West Ham at home is not bad at all, and he is someone that I could go for instead of Lucas Paqueta. It's something that I'm thinking about, but the only thing with Okafor, right, if we just quickly have a look at his minutes, he usually does get subbed off, and that's what's kind of putting me off. Like you can see here, 67 minutes, 69 minutes, 66 minutes, 78 minutes. So the minutes aren't necessarily amazing, but he's got 2 goals in his last 3 games, sorry. And I like what I've seen from him on the eye test, man. He's a really good technical player, looks quite skillful, just looks like he's really improved that Leeds attack, if I'm being totally honest with you guys. Like, it's a big upgrade, you know, when you compare it to like Nonto, who was playing in that position before, right? So I do kind of like Okafor. I do kind of like what I've seen sort of on the eye. The underlying data as well is not too bad, 0.44 expected goal involvement per 90. So yeah, definitely on my radar for sure. But right now I'm leaning more towards Paqueta because the minutes are there. He's on penalties as well. So yeah, just wanted to sort of mention that. I'd probably say that's the only other player that I am considering, really. Of course, I could go for someone like Caicedo as well and play sort of the defensive contributions. But nah, that pick doesn't really excite me too much. But yeah, right now, let's just say we go for Paqueta, right? Let's just say we do go for Paqueta. Now, as I said, for game week 8, I could start Rodon or I could start Van de Ven. Right now, I'm leaning towards Van de Ven, but that certainly could change. Anyway, that's how the team looks for game week 8. Let's move on, right? Game week 9, the plan would be to roll the transfer. Yeah, not much really needs to be done here in game week 9, if we're being totally honest. I think the team does look good, but once again, I think the question is, do I start Rodon over Van de Ven? Now, if I decide to go for Paqueta, I wouldn't start Rodon because, as you guys know, I don't like it when my defenders play against my attackers. If I do go for Okafor, then there's a good chance that I actually start Rodon instead of Van de Ven because I just don't like the Spurs defense. And I think Rodon's chances of getting defensive contributions are a lot higher than Van de Ven's. And, you know, he's a good threat from set pieces as well. But again, that's a decision that, you know, just does depend on who I go for, Paqueta or Okafor. But in terms of the starting 11 overall, I think it looks good. You know, I got my double Arsenal defense against Palace at home. That's fine. Senesi and Semenyo against Nottingham Forest at home. Love it. Reinders and Haaland against Aston Villa away. I don't mind it. I think Reinders has been blanking a lot, and I do quickly want to touch on that, right? Reinders has been blanking a lot, but I think for me, like with Reinders, I got him at 5.5. He's now 5.8, and I just think at his price point, with the attacking threat that he still does have, I know he's not returning, but with the attacking threat I feel like he does have, I just think at his price point, he is the best sort of one of the best options you can get, and I just don't think there's a clear sort of obvious option that's worth using the transfer to go to. So for that reason, I just feel like I'm going to keep Reinders. I know he's not looking great at the moment, but for me, I don't really have a rush to take him out, and I know that at some point I want him back as well. Like game week 13, I'd want Reinders back. So yeah, for me, I think yes, he's sort of entering a relatively tough fixture run. Villa away, Bournemouth at home, Liverpool at home and Newcastle away. It's not necessarily ideal, but I just still think there is not an obvious pick to go to, and for that reason, at his price point, for me, he still remains one of the better picks, and therefore I think I'm just going to keep him. So yeah, Reinders, Haaland against Aston Villa away from home, Kudus against Everton away, that's fine. Salah against Brentford away, don't mind it, and Joao Pedro against Sunderland at home, and Paqueta against Leeds away. So the team for game week 9 does look very, very good in my opinion. So yeah, we just roll the transfer and we move on to game week 10, and now this is where I use potentially all 3 of my free transfers. As you guys can see, we got 3 free transfers in the bank. Now, listen, first let's just fix a starting 11, right? I'd bench Senesi and start Anderson against Wolves at home. So that's the first thing I'd do. Next up is the transfers. So Van de Ven has to go, Kudus has to go, and I have the option to take out Paqueta, and I think I want to take him out, right? I know like Newcastle at home is tough. I know after that he's got Burnley at home, but for me, there is another player that I really, really like. Now, I don't necessarily have to take out Paqueta, but let's just say we do, right? Let's just say we do. So what I want to do is bring in basically triple Palace. Basically triple Palace. So I want Ismail Assar, right? I want Chris Richards. They're like non-negotiables for me. Chris Richards, just Ismail Assar, they must come in because I love the fixture run from game week 10 for Crystal Palace. Now that leaves me with 6.3 million in the bank. Now I could go to Jacobo Minte at this point, right? Who's got Leeds at home and a really good fixture run, right? Leeds at home, Palace away is tough to be fair, but then after that it's Brentford at home, Forest away, Villa at home, West Ham, Liverpool's tough, but then there's Sunderland, and then Arsenal, but then after Arsenal West Ham and Burnley. Like the fixtures are good, right, for Brighton. So I might change my mind by the time we get to the game week 10 deadline, but it could be Minte. Another player I'm thinking of though is Jeremy Pino, and that might shock some of you guys. I don't really see many people talking about Pino, but I think he looks like quite a good pick. Now, he hasn't got any goals, he hasn't got any assists at the moment, but I just look at these sort of fixtures for Crystal Palace, right, from game week 10 onwards, and I just think they look absolutely amazing, and I can see them scoring quite a few goals across this run. I could see Jeremy Pino being a good pick across this run. I mean, so many good home games, you know, Brentford at home, Brighton at home, Wolves away, United at home, Burnley away, Fulham away. I look at these games and I think these are really good fixtures. So I do kind of want to double up on the Crystal Palace attack. Of course, I can't go for big boy Jean-Philippe Mateta. I've not got the funds for that. I don't have the facilities. I've not got the money, right? So yeah, double Palace attack might shock some of you guys, but I think it's got potential. And I think Jeremy Pino on the eye test has looked quite good. Could have got an assist yesterday against Everton. You know, he definitely he's had the chances to get goal contributions. I think against Sunderland, he went through 1-on-1 with the keeper, missed an opportunity, but I think ultimately me, Yeremy Pino does look like quite a good player, and I think the goals and assists will come. And I think during this run of good fixtures that Crystal Palace do have, that's when he will become a good pick, in my opinion. That's when he's going to start scoring goals and assisting goals. So for me, it is a choice between Yeremy Pino and Minte for this spot, in my opinion. I think they're really the two players that I'm considering. I'm not really considering anyone else. I mean, I could go to someone like Amad Diallo, but just don't want to go there. Absolutely not. So yeah, they're really the two options. It is between Yeremy Pino and Minte, but I'm going to be honest, I do want to go for Yeremy. I just, again, when you talk about gut feeling and trusting your intuition, I just feel like, I mean, 0.1% ownership is crazy. The minutes are good. Obviously, against West Ham, he did come off with an injury, so that 45 minutes probably would have been longer if he didn't come off injured. Crystal Palace, against Liverpool, of course, he came off in the 73rd minute. Got 87 minutes here. The minutes are okay. I think when you compare it to sort of Minte, the minutes are not as good. Minte's definitely got more 90 minutes, so you could argue for that reason Minte is a better pick. But again, I just have a feeling about Yeremy Pino. I really do. When I watch Crystal Palace, when I look at the underlying data, it does look quite good. You know, I think Yeremy Pino, his underlying data is pretty decent as well so far since coming into the league. I mean, 0.53 expected goal involvement per 90, right? Which is really good. I mean, when you compare it to Minte, I actually think it's better, right? I do think it's better. Minte's got 0.44 expected goal involvement per 90. So you can see there, even Yeremy Pino's underlying data is better. So yeah, there is a decision to be made there, really. Yeremy versus Minte, but it's certainly something I'm weighing up, and you know, I do like Yeremy Pino. So let's just say we do go triple Palace, right, and we go for Yeremy, right? That's how the team would look for game week 10, and I like it, right? Double Arsenal defense against Burnley away, triple Palace against Brentford at home, Anderson against Wolves at home, Semenyo against City away, double City attack against Bournemouth at home with Rangers and Haaland. I don't mind it, right? I do think it looks good. Let's move on anyway. They're the transfers that I make for game week 10. Now we move on to game week 11, right? Again, I love the way the team looks, to be fair. It's double Arsenal defense against Sunderland away. Very, very nice. It's Richards, Yeremy and Sarr against Brighton at home. I like it. We've also got Anderson against Everton away. I don't mind it. But to be fair, I could start Senesi instead of Anderson. Yeah, again, I feel like that's 50-50 to be fair. But yeah, in midfield, it's Semenyo against Aston Villa. Rangers at home against Liverpool with Haaland. Now, I could go to a 4 at the back here and bench Rangers against Liverpool. If Liverpool look better, then it's something I will consider. But right now, I'd be in favour of starting Rangers purely because Liverpool's defence just doesn't look good. Their defence doesn't look good, and I still think, yeah, they do concede chances, and I think Rangers can actually give an attack and return in this game. So as it stands, based on current form, I'd be more inclined to start Rangers. We got Salah against City away. Don't mind it at all. Very, very happy with the Salah pick, to be fair. I think at some point, a lot of people are going to be looking to bring in Salah. I do genuinely believe that. So yeah, Salah against City away, still happy to own him at this point. Then we also do have Joao Pedro against Wolves at home. So I think the team does look good. In terms of captaincy, it would definitely be Joao Pedro this week, to be honest. I mean, I could do Haaland because, as I said, Liverpool defence has been poor. But I think this week is the week to sort of take a small gamble, right, and back against Haaland. Very rarely am I going to do that, but I think this would be one of the weeks to do that. So yeah, that's how the team would look in game week 11. I do have one free transfer, so I could, in theory, do something, but I don't really think any of these players really need to come out. Let's move on anyway. Right, enough of the rambling. Game week 12. Again, really, I just roll the transfer, man. I think the team is in a very, very good space. And what I'll do here is actually go to a 4 at the back. I'd start Anderson against Sunderland at home, bench Rangers against Newcastle away, and the team looks good. I like it. Double Arsenal defence against Spurs at home, Richards against Wolves away with Yeremy Pino and Sarr. I like that a lot. Then Senesi and Semenyo against West Ham at home, and then Anderson against Sunderland at home, Haaland against Newcastle, and Joao Pedro against Burnley. Once again, I like the way the team looks, and again, for captaincy, I'd probably back against Haaland here, and I'd go for Salah captain, playing against Nottingham Forest, and yeah, because Haaland's playing against Newcastle away, which is a very, very tough defence. So yeah, that's what my team would look like for game week 12, and once again, really, I can roll the transfer. More than happy to roll the transfer and move on to game week 13. And once again, I like the team. You know, Rangers at home against Leeds. I can bench Anderson, start Reinders, and I like the team again. You know, double Arsenal defense against Chelsea away, triple Palace against United at home, love it. Senesi and Semenyo against Sunderland away, I love it. Reinders and Haaland against Leeds at home, and Joao Pedro against Arsenal. I like the team a lot, and at this point, I've got 3 free transfers. Now, I do, of course, have the option to roll. Now, one thing I am slightly considering, though, is making a couple of short-term punts. Maybe I even take out Joao Pedro just for 1 week, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because my team is in such sort of a good spot that I don't need to use transfers, but at the same time, I do want to use my transfers, and that's because in Game Week 16, we get topped up with 5 free transfers. So I don't really want to burn any transfers. I don't really want to waste any free transfers I've got, right? So with that being said, there is potential for me to make really, really short-term moves. Maybe I take out someone like Anderson for a couple weeks as well. For example, I don't know who I would go to, or maybe I take out Joao Pedro just for 1 week, literally just for 1 week, and then bring him back in, because I do have transfers to burn. This team can roll I could roll this week. But as I said, I don't want to burn any transfer. So potentially, maybe even someone like Raya could also come out for the short term, and then I'd bring him back in. But yeah, I'm not really too sure what I'm going to do at this point. But the team is in a good spot nonetheless. I can roll the transfer. Game Week 14, I mean, the team looks exceptional once again. Joao Pedro against Leeds. Double Arsenal against Brentford at home. Triple Palace against Burnley away. Double Everton against Everton at home. Salah against Sunderland. I just think the team right now, it's in a good spot. It's in a good spot, and this plan does look really, really well. Once again, I don't need to make a transfer here. It's quite funny. I don't need to make a transfer, but the issue I've got is, once again, because I can roll, I've now got 5 free transfers in Game Week 15, and to make use of the transfers that were being given, I need to use all 5 free transfers. But I don't think I need 5 free transfers. I really don't. So yeah, I mean, at this point, you could argue I don't need my Palace players anymore. So to be fair, maybe in Game Week 15, I use 5 free transfers, right? Maybe I don't need, like, Pino could come out. Semenyo could come out maybe for 1 game and I bring him back. Joao Pedro against Bournemouth could potentially come out. I don't know. But maybe there is something I can do here. And yeah, just basically use up the 5 free transfers so I don't end up burning any transfers. But yeah, ultimately what I'm trying to say is, right, the good thing is the team is in a good spot, and I like the transfer plans I've got. I'm trusting my gut. I'm trusting my intuition. I like Jeremy Pino. I like Sarr. I like Chris Richards. I like Joao Pedro. These are the players I'm targeting. These are the players I want in my team. So yeah, let's just see how things go. But at the moment, guys, I'm liking what we're doing. But yeah, I know this video I've rambled a lot, but I'm just kind of trying to relay all my thoughts to you guys, right? Because I think this is this is an important time, right? And we've got some big decisions to make, and we have to get them right. It's simple as that. We have to get these decisions right if we want to continue getting those green arrows. So it's very key that we do the right things, but hopefully the plans end up working. I kind of like where I'm heading. I do like where I'm heading. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's transfer plans, though. I really do hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash a big thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell as well. But yeah, thank you guys for the amazing support. Of course, we're going to take a little break in videos, I think, until next week, as it is the international break. So transfer talks will not be out probably until next week, Monday or Tuesday. And of course, team selection will be out next week. So yeah, enjoy the international break, man. Get some rest, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll be back next time. But until then, I'm out. Peace.